Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast, episode 4. How are you doing, Wes?
I'm good. Had a good productive week, I'd say. How are you?
Nice. Congratulations.
You got some punches this morning.
Yeah, I feel a little punch drunk from sparring, but it was fun. It's just that boxing is such a humbling and unforgiving sport. I was pretty much dominating all the rounds, no joke. But then I forgot to move after a punch only one time, just out of fatigue, and I got hit with a straight left, and it really rocked me. So it needed about 20 seconds. And my nose hurts, and there was a little bit of blood involved as well. But nothing too serious. But it's a nice way to start the Saturday. But I am a little punch drunk, so if I slur my words, like Lex Fridman, just so you know, that's the cause of it.
Okay.
So what's on your mind for today?
Well, I think the biggest thing that happened this week was the Jaguar rebranding.
Ooh, are you sure you want to go into that? I followed it. Actually, I had a tweet that got some traction for the first time in my entire career on X. Yeah, man, where to start even? So we know Jaguar.
I mean, you're the brand guy here, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what went wrong. I could only tell that it did not appeal to me at all. But I do remember, because one of my friends from my hometown, her dad always had like that old E-Type.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a banger of a car, man. Like I always thought like, ooh, that's such a nice car. And I mean, I was like, I don't know, 11, 12, and I already knew that car is cool, you know?
Yeah.
And if I have that memory of the E-Type compared to what I saw on X last week with the rollout of that campaign, I was like, nah, that is going down the drain, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Jaguar is one of those typically, very distinguished brands that you only know from, like as a kid, you hear Jaguar, you hear Aston Martin, Mercedes, all these sophisticated brands, in this case, the British sophistication. And I mean, that's like, it's top of mind for me still when I hear the name Jaguar. And you have all these classic models. You know a little bit more about it than me. I'm not like very, very big car guy. But yeah, let's just say that it was a departure from the old ways of doing. Is that a good way to phrase it?
I think that's very careful.
Yeah, I'm still in my in boxing mode, so protect yourself at all times. I mean, look, you know what? The first thing that came to mind is that it was incredibly tone deaf for a rebrand in 2024, end of 2024. So all the aesthetics reminded me of what we have seen, the past 5 or so years from many brands, mostly consumer brands, to be honest. Jaguar is a consumer brand as well, but and probably also some automotive brands, but definitely not this, not this extreme and colorful. And so, the reason I find it tone deaf is because it's not really the zeitgeist anymore, right? These kind of aesthetics.
I thought we were done with that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you also saw it with football clubs. And recently, I think Ajax, well, no, I know Ajax, the club of our
Ajax
hometown,
Amsterdam, baby.
They went back to the old logo.
Yes.
And I saw like more fashion brands doing the same thing. So this was like, I thought they were still doing something that was maybe like kind of accepted, like up until like 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like,
it's like we've passed peak woke, so to speak, is what I would describe it as. And this felt like it could be something from 2018.
Yeah, but take out all the people on the colors and like the vibe of it. Like if you take the brand, the logo, like woke or not, it's just like that's not the direction we're heading into anymore. And I think most of us are happy that we're getting a little bit more character in logos, like
it's a little bit more of a renaissance of the a little bit more of the classical aesthetic design teams, which is for me it's a great development, and everything goes in cycles. I mean, I get that, and that's all perfectly fine. So I guess the main point, the main thought when seeing that ad is just that I just didn't like it. I just didn't think it was very good work. I thought it was over the top. I thought it was a little bit petulant, maybe a bit childish, and it's like it was on the shelf, that ad, for like 5 years, and now they decided to
Yes.
it's like watching an alternate universe or something, like an alternate trajectory of culture and popular culture and brands or something. Like it's like if there was a split 5 years ago where sort of one direction went like the super ultra colorful
Flat.
yeah, and then the other direction went to a path of more classical aesthetics and a bit more sophistication, I guess. And it was like this was like a glitch in that matrix or something. I don't know, but let's talk about the backlash, because it was brutal, my friend, brutal. It went on for days, on not just on X, but on pretty much any platform where they sort of shared it. The comments were just brutal. Whatever you think of the ad, I mean, I'm fine if you like it. It's perfect. It's great, but it's just unmistakably the backlash and the general response was just brutal. It's just, it's like the worst backlash of a brand I've ever seen.
Felt like the world decided that it was a no-go.
It's enough. We've had enough.
I also read people online who were like on the verge of buying a Jag. Canceling the order.
Many in the comments. I mean, and you never know if that's like a lie or a joke or something.
There's probably a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you also have like the smart asses who say, well, you guys don't understand anything about branding because, you know, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and Jaguar did a masterpiece because they garnered so much attention, 160 million views or whatever in a couple of days. They did, but it's not a can of beer or a bag of chips. It's a damn car. And you know how it's a highly emotional purchase, and it's very much subject to what your peers think about it, right? I mean, you can't get around that. So buying a car, and especially like a more expensive car like the Jaguar cars, it's definitely the peer pressure and how it plays a role. So it's not something to joke around about, like let's do an intentionally bad ad so we gain a lot of publicity.
It's a lot more permanent than an ad, man. It's a rebrand.
It's a full rebrand. Yeah. It's you know what? One of the most underestimated things in terms of how bad it was is the copy. Nobody's really talking about that because what immediately catches your eye is like the very colorful, very diverse, and very, I don't know, avant-garde, let's put it like that, sort of aesthetics and composition. But the copy is just, I think it's worse. So let me tell you, I clicked on the website, the new landing page, you know.
Website sucked.
Yeah, Dude. Yeah. But I was looking at sort of the messaging house that they've built for this new brand, and it was like ChatGPT all over it. It's like these very bold, concise statements, like something like delete average or something, which sounds a little bit nihilistic to me, to be honest. But, you know, let's not get into that. But also, I was paying attention to the X account that was replying to the people replying to the ad. And it was like they had like a pre-programmed set of phrases. It will all be revealed. This is just the beginning. Like it was like a ChatGPT set of very standard generic statements, and so there was also no wit from the social media department to sort of, you know, go be playful about it. Obviously, the very brutal comments they ignored completely, but Elon Musk even responded because spoiler alert.
What did he say? Do you even sell cars? Something like that, right?
Yeah. Do you sell cars? Do you sell any cars? Because there was no car in the ad. Yeah. And in defense of Jaguar, fine. You know, it's. I always liked keeping things out or keeping elements out as a sort of in a playful or storytelling way could work. But in this case, I mean, yeah, it would probably be nice to see something or the contours of a car. So one day later, they posted an image of a small part of, I guess, their new model in a very 70s pastel color, you know, concept art style. and there you could see at least a glimpse of a car. So I guess it's just wait and see what their lineup will look like. I think they will also go fully electric for this new line. So will have a fully electric lineup. Okay, fine. But yeah, I don't know. What sticks to me is just it's so tone deaf. It's like I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, same. And then simultaneously this week, Porsche came out with a banger of a video for like a special version of the 993.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I just loved that car, and it brought back more like old nostalgia of the brand of that car.
Yeah.
And also the new campaign of Volvo.
Right, that's great. I love it.
Pro family and like stuff that you don't see that often these days. And I felt like, hey, this stuff resonated with me. But I'm not even a Volvo fan, man. I mean, I participate in a rally where Volvos are not allowed even.
Yeah. I've always liked Volvo. I actually lost the pitch, like by a very small margin, I think, for a Volvo project, and so I got to spend some time at that office, and it's pretty cool. I mean, they're Chinese owned, right? But I think that the brand still has quite a bit of autonomy.
It's a super nice brand, a super
really
nice
cool
car.
Brand.
It just has like, I don't know where it went wrong for me, but like somehow it has this a certain vibe. Yeah, I don't know. Like, isn't it like called like a football mom car, like something like that? But
well,
I mean, we drove a car. We had a Volvo when we came back from Portugal because my car broke down.
Yeah.
Pretty solid car, man.
I loved driving it. It was pretty fluent, and but Volvo always had, of course, the reputation that's also what their goal was, to be the safest car there is. So very robust, very safe, and that's also a very good way to build a brand, and they succeeded in that. But so it's very. I'm very curious to see where the advertising world is going with all of this, and which aesthetics and themes and type of storytelling will dominate for the coming time. Yeah. Jaguar is not it for me. Yeah. But again, I'm always I love classical aesthetics, but I'm also by nature a very colorful person. Like, I love everyone. I'm curious about everyone. Curious about cultures. Curious about this and that. People from all walks of life, having conversations with them. So but I don't know. It's very hard to call it for me. But I just didn't, even if you go that direction, that very colorful, creative.
You can make it happen, man.
Yeah, but I just didn't like it. It just wasn't good, and it made me feel a little bit awkward, and I don't know. No Jaguar for me, but then again, nothing beats a 2008 Land Cruiser anyway. Well, so shout out to Toyota.
Yeah, we share that opinion, that's for sure.
For sure.
So let's not stick with the car stuff. What do you have to discuss today?
So we have a couple of things on our notepad, as we call it. But before we start, how is your esoteric bathing journey going with the magnesium and the salt? And
so I think, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I bought like buckets of, I think it was 5 kilos of magnesium.
Yeah.
Salts.
You talked about it in the first or the second episode.
5 kilos of baking soda. And used it all.
It's all gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. So now I bought like 10 kilo buckets. But dude, it's insane, man. I do it a couple times a week now, and I sleep like a beast afterwards. It's super nice.
Yeah,
it's
I noticed you were very relaxed and well rested coming into the office for about an hour.
It's a change.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, good to hear. Good to hear.
Yep.
Let's move on to more pressing matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this tweet about YouTube starting to roll out AI video localization, which is pretty damn cool and also pretty damn scary. So I'm talking about using AI to localize videos in a different language. So I record a video in English, you see me talk, you see my lips move, then you do something with AI, and then all of a sudden I'm fluently Chinese and my lips are moving.
But is it already rolled out?
I think it's being rolled out. They have been testing with it, I think already since 2022. You can upload your own audio tracks for overdubbing, but that's more like what you saw on German TV when we were young, right?
Yeah.
But sort of the AI lip syncing feature is something that they are rolling out right now. And of course, you have other apps like Rask.ai and no affiliation, by the way. I wish. So you have apps experimenting with that. We are actually talking to a startup who also is working on an AI video localization product. I'm just curious about how that would work on the user end, and if users are really excited about it. What do you think? Would you watch a localized? I mean, we speak English very well, right? So, but for non-English speakers, so it might be a solution. But would you watch an AI localized video?
Maybe. I don't know, man. I've no idea. I mostly consume everything in English.
Yeah, me too.
From books, video, whatever. But I do understand, as much as we speak English, I mean, I speak it throughout the entire day, here at work, with my wife. It's still not my mother tongue, right? So.
And will never be, no matter how good you become at it.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder, like, also. Maybe what happens is that I start watching people that I wouldn't have watched before, you know, just because they're like not accessible for me at all.
Yeah,
you know,
like for example, there's like a Chinese YouTuber or something that you come across and you click on the English, or it automatically switches to an English AI overdub, and you think, this guy has very interesting stuff to say. I'm gonna subscribe, and then I'm just gonna watch his future videos.
Yeah.
Localized to English.
I mean, I sometimes watch Megan's, my wife's videos. She makes videos in Korean. I mean, I don't speak Korean, so I need to.
Yeah,
Lord
knows what she's saying about you.
I don't know, man. Could be anything.
But yeah, but when this is fully rolled out, you can actually check. So okay, no, of course. So it opens up a whole new set of possibilities. We will be able to discover new people, new thought leaders, new content creators that we never heard of, because there's a language barrier. So that could be cool.
It levels the playing field a little bit as well, because I mean, up until now, like, most of the literature was in English, right? I mean, if you didn't speak English, you were like playing it a little bit on hard mode.
Right, but there were a lot of translations, right, for the books and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. But I think this is another step, right?
Yeah. Seamless. It gets more seamless. Now it will be fun, and of course, you know also. Well, you know what? Let's look at the data. So how big is this opportunity actually? So I just ChatGPT'd some bullets here, just to give a little bit of to step outside of our bubble a little bit. So as of January 2023, there were approximately 5.16 billion internet users worldwide, with a language distribution of approximately 26% of global internet users who are English speakers. So I think that accounts for native English and non-native. And the remaining, it's actually pretty mind-blowing. The remaining 74% of internet users speak various other languages, highlighting the vast potential audience for localized content. Okay, so this doesn't really say that 40 of 74% doesn't speak English. That's not entirely clear to me, but even still, that suggests a large audience for localized video. So video content accounts for 80% of all internet traffic. Short form videos under 2 minutes have the highest engagement rates. Okay. 89% of people express a desire to see more video content from brands. Yeah, this is not really about language. So localized video content can significantly boost engagement and accessibility, catering to the linguistic preferences of diverse audiences. And I was looking into this actually because at NOCO we mostly design and build websites for B2B SaaS and tech. And of course their products are being used by user bases, multi-language user bases. So we already offer, of course, localization. We use the Webflow localization plugins and other stuff to localize it even more specifically. And we're now actively looking at the sort of APIs to build something ourselves to also tailor to video localization, because there's a lot of there's a lot of, for example, webinars. That's a big one, right? Webinars, product demos, tutorials, all, just basically content libraries of B2B SaaS products for the user base to get more value out of it, or to learn to use it better, or for those companies in their content strategy to share knowledge. Many of them, or a number of them, have podcasts. So you could also localize your podcast. We could do that with this one as well. Should we try that? Nice experiment to do that.
Maybe next one we record in Dutch, see how well it does in English.
Yeah.
But I see many use cases with it. Also, since both of our companies are working with people all around the world, some are very good at speaking English, some are a little bit less. Like, how nice is it for them to just like record a Loom recording about just something that they made in just their mother tongue?
Well, we use Loom pretty much all the time, for internal briefings, for customer updates. So definitely, you just beat me to it, because it's a matter of time before Loom starts integrating stuff like this, or they're late to the party. It all depends on the inertia.
I think, I'm biased, of course, but I see so much potential in that use case, because I love working with people around the world, but I do see that the language barrier sometimes is an issue.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, especially when you want to get into the nitty gritty, or that they got like you want them to back up their idea for a design with the right words. It gives them a little bit more power. Let's hope they pick it up, Loom.
Yeah, I think so, and or else I'm sure there will be many other alternatives, because that's how it goes. But yeah, it will definitely open up new worlds, but also new pools of resources and talent. Because, for example, we are all used in Europe to everybody speaking at least English to some degree, very advanced, or at least so they can make themselves heard or understood. But you've traveled in South America as well. It's a completely different world. What we see as English as sort of the main language that everybody sort of speaks. It's obviously Spanish in Latin America. And it's, if you don't, this as well, if you don't speak Spanish, you can make friends. And of course, the younger generation speaks more English. But if you really want to establish yourself there, you bet your ass that you need to be fluent in Spanish in order
100%,
to 100%. Yeah. Same goes, of course, for Asia, and in a lot of cases. But it also means that we do not necessarily look for talent in South America or Asia, because we kind of already know that the language barrier is, in a lot of cases, is an item.
Yeah.
So seamless translation, also with tools like Loom and stuff like that, but also in typing, using Slack and all of that, could break that barrier. Yeah. So I think it will also, what do you think of Africa? African countries. So I think that this also could be used for good. It's a matter of time before we're all in video calls and everybody's speaking their native tongue. I'm sure the technology is already there. There might be a little bit of latency and it's imperfect still. So yeah, it will open up, it will level the playing field, as you said.
Yeah, I think so too. Because the thought I had with YouTube doing this, I was thinking of Megan recording videos in Korean. Population of Korea is a little bit above like 50 million, right? So you got a ceiling of who you can reach. So I think it's will probably cause quite a boom in all these local creators reaching far more audience than they did before.
And there will be very talented and interesting people there that we here in Europe would become a fan of or frequent consumers of. So bring it on.
Who knows? I want to see it first.
Yeah. So in short, staying at our customer base, this is definitely one of the things I want to implement ASAP. As soon as we have something that's technically sound and that's efficient enough and scalable to do AI localization of video content, so that our B2B SaaS and tech customers can distribute it, basically seamlessly to their audiences, their multi-language audiences. That's definitely a must-have. So looking forward to seeing that develop and what YouTube is going to do. But, you could have expected that, for example, Spotify would beat them to it, right? Because it's such a no-brainer with all the podcasts that are on there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them also audio. And
people expected that to happen. Yeah. Oh, well.
Maybe there's a reason why they didn't do that yet.
But I mean, they're also quite new to the podcast game, right? I mean, it's really started to pick up for Spotify after Joe Rogan signed, I think. But before that, I never used it for podcast, to be honest.
I think I did. That's a good question. I'm not sure of the timeline, but I think I already did. Audio podcast. But that's also another fun fact is that when Joe Rogan signed for Spotify, they did not have video podcast functionality. Yeah. They launched the video functionality for Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan was negotiating with them, but he was about to say no because it would be audio only. I couldn't believe it either, but he said it himself on the podcast. But then he talked to his friends and everything, and he was like, no, video is a part of my formula and why it's so successful. Like the iconic moment with Elon Musk, puffing a blunt. He said that couldn't have happened without video. So they actually either implemented it for him.
Yeah, but many things, man, because I mean, with many shows that I listen to, I often think, oh, damn, like I can't watch my screen right now, and then they get something that they explain with something on the screen. Like I think it's quite a critical element for many podcasts.
Yeah, and then again, if you listen to a long form podcast, how long do you actually watch the screen?
I sometimes switch in and out between video and just audio, but it's funny that you say, because I remember that he was the only one that had video functionality on Spotify.
And now everybody can do it. Yeah. We do it as well.
Yeah.
And it's super easy, I must say. The user interface is pretty simple to use, and it kind of works. So, and but Spotify also enabled artists to upload videos, and this is video clips of their music videos. Yeah, super cool because I posted the McKinsey meme with and they used the Will Smith "Welcome to Miami" song. Yeah. And you saw a McKinsey consultant. Well, that's what they said it was. In a McLaren, casually driving home, hearing the song "Miami" by Will Smith, and then with the caption, "McKinsey consultants driving home after telling the client to lower cost and increase revenue." Bouncing in the city where the heat is on all night on the beach to the break of dawn. So, but the cool thing is that it's also, you can watch all those old videos now that you saw on MTV and TMF and stuff like that. Yeah, not all of them.
I always saw maybe I don't know what it was, maybe a GIF or something, but something showing like video.
Yeah,
but
video loop.
It was a loop. Yeah,
you could upload that. Yeah, you could upload. But now you see full blown music videos, but also from like the 90s and stuff, which is pretty cool. Because the music videos were some masterpieces. Like you had famous directors also doing them. Like I remember for Madonna, she had a song "Bad Girl" from the early 90s or something, and David Fincher, like the famous director David Fincher, actually directed that music video, and it had Christopher Walken in there.
Really?
Yeah, man. Because so there's some masterpieces there. Yeah, so you can watch all that stuff on Spotify now.
It will bring some nostalgic moments, I think.
Because that's when I looked up Miami.
Yeah.
And I opened it, and all of a sudden I saw Will Smith being all happy, jumping out of a private jet.
Yeah.
And it was super cool because the video is very nice. I just never watch it anymore because you just listen to it.
Yeah,
all right. So there is a cool topic that we want to discuss today, and it's kind of a concept that you brought up over dinner the other day, and you also wrote a cool article about it, essay as I always call it. And I want to start with a quote. Well, actually, the topic is front-loading energy distribution.
Front-loaded.
I made a mistake.
Whatever.
Front-loaded energy distribution. So, just a quote. "The early bird catches the worm. We've all heard it, and we all know what it means. Most of us even agree it's 100% true. If you can get the important stuff done early in the day, you free up the rest of your time for hobbies, creative projects, your social life, heroin use, or whatever you choose to focus on." Yeah. So
it's true, right?
what keeps you, your mind occupied when thinking about this concept, front-loaded energy distribution?
Yeah, I got it with many things, and I think most of us agree with the fact when you get your shit done in the morning, yeah, it promises you get a pretty nice day in most of cases. But what I have in mind when thinking about this is mostly projects, but more businesses. You know, like what we did with NOCO, for example. You know, like we basically built NOCO. We did the ideation, the validation, what kind of proposition resonates with what audience. We figured out a system for the throughput, and along came you. You know, like and now you dive in and you're like, it doesn't work perfectly yet. And all these things come up that we think, I could have put more attention in that, you know, could have put more time in it. But I still think NOCO went pretty well, and I think what you're doing with it right now is, yeah, way better than what I did with it so far. But that's an example of how it went well. In another case, I built this D2C company, but I basically just did the ideation, did the validation, set up like some systems, but then I basically gave someone a bag of money and go build this, and that went terribly wrong. You know, like that sucked. And eventually you get it back as a boomerang, right? Because either you need to kill it or you need to put all your time and effort in it to, basically save it from going bankrupt. And I did the latter. I fixed it, but it was like months on end of just work, sleep cycles constantly. And that's not, you don't want to end up in that space, man. So
let's break this down, because it's good to dive into some examples of it. So front-loaded energy distribution is basically, it's about building early momentum, being proactive versus reactive, but also just basically get your shit together in advance, right? Or most of it, at least.
Kind of. Well, I mean, a lot of people, when I see it in our business, you know, like when you do projects with partners or whatever, they sell it in a certain way to you. Like you got like full trust that they will put a lot of time in it up front to make sure that everything is well prepped, well understood, everyone is aligned. And then we get going, and all of a sudden you're like, this is not in line with how it's sold at all. Mm-hmm. And then along the line, it's just like constantly communicating about how things need to be interpreted. It's constantly like fixing shit along the way. A lot of stuff that could have been prevented. And I think with how we mostly work with our companies, NOCO and Eli 5, we do a lot of this stuff up front. We want to make sure that we know all the ins and outs, like what is our client, what is the plan of the client, what is their vision. We want to make sure that everything is technically feasible. Kill as much as assumptions as possible. Align the team, you know, like do all the necessary stuff. And a lot of people are slacking on that, which will bite you in the butt down the road, right? And this is on a project level. You can look at it on, you can zoom out, look at it on like a company level. You can zoom in, look at it from like how you...
Daily level?
Yeah, your daily level, weekly level. I always try to put as much of like the hard stuff, but also the boring stuff. I like to put it in, like, I want to get it done.
Yeah.
And sometimes just life happens, you don't do it, and you got like a terrible week, man. And it's, I think it's a concept that is, it's nice when you make it a fundamental part of everything that you do. And I think it's also nice if it's carried out by other people in the company.
Okay, yeah. So let me see. I have some quotes from that. So I have some quotes from the article that you wrote, is what I mean. Yeah, use your best energy to tackle high impact tasks when you're at your freshest. That's basically what you just said. Start strong and ride the momentum through your day or week. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit on momentum. So I find it very important for myself, but also people I work with, that there's proper momentum recognition. Like I have an instinct where I instinctively feel when we need to create some momentum, because I know that if we do that the rest of that journey, whether it's micro or macro, like a project or a day or a quarter, goes much smoother if we take the right moment to stop and focus all our energy for a small burst of time or whatever on creating momentum. And this could translate into many things. You know, most commonly it's your organization, your structures, your processes, etc. You need to understand when to stop and go psycho mode on that and create a sort of momentum, new energy, new perspectives. And then it might cost you a little bit in the long term, but that's much better than constant nagging issues coming back on a daily or weekly basis, while you barely don't notice them, but they accumulate and they have like a very much strain and create a lot of threshold on sort of the rest of your journey.
Yeah.
So recognizing momentum and going through pain in order to sort of get that momentum going and using that momentum it's also front loading the pain, basically.
It is. But I mean, you can see it in so many things, you know, like the throughput of your business, the onboarding of new employees. I mean, I've been there, you know, like I slacked on that. And then you got like employee number 5 coming with the same freaking questions, you know.
Well, if you just stopped and just sat down for a day and just all the processes, all the onboarding, and you wrote it all down, it would have probably been easier for the 4 other employees and much less painful for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So front-loaded energy distribution, or front-loading the pain.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we need to do. Well, you know, we talk about this like there are new topics, but we have plenty of phrases and expressions even in Dutch, right? Eerst het zuur, dan het zoet. So, first the sour, then the sweet. Eat that frog. Early bird catches the worm, etc., etc. You know, our ancestors all had it pretty much figured out, right?
There's a lot of wisdom in there.
Yeah. Aren't we just first principle back engineering stuff our grandparents had already kind of figured out?
Yeah,
But just,
I think that often, man.
yeah. I mean, the same for diet, right? Like potatoes and beef is basically all you need for.
My grandpa ate potatoes and steak every day. And he fried it in butter. I think he became like 86, 87 with it or something.
Yeah, but he was doing well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He became old in a very healthy way.
Yeah.
Day in, day out, and then all of a sudden, that stuff was bad for you because it was red meat and it was like fried in butter, and like now I'm back at it.
Yeah, that's
I eat the same thing and I feel amazing.
Yeah. My girlfriend loves, especially when the weather gets colder, to make these classical Dutch dishes and stews, but especially meatballs. Hutspot with meatballs and all of that stuff. Her grandma, taught it to her. It's very wholesome, and just the classical stuff, and it's so good.
As ugly as the Dutch cuisine is, I mean, I love.
Yeah, but is it really? Is it really? It's super nutritious. From all the cold.
It is nutritious.
All
the
beef stews.
I always feel like it's a little bit of the the less sophisticated way of doing the British Sunday roast.
Yeah.
We just mash it all up.
Yeah,
and
it's bland. It's a little bit bland
with a lot of gravy, some salt, pepper, dude.
But it's so nutritious, man.
It is.
Yeah.
But I also, I eat it a lot in winter. I think we're heading into the days I'm gonna eat it again.
Oh yeah.
It feels good. Like you feel like somehow I feel like a farmer or something, like it's like insane amount of energy.
It's instinctive eating. It just instantly feels good without too many bells and whistles. I actually have like a huge chunk of beef in my fridge that I'm going to make like a very nice heavy beef stew with, like a buff bourguignon type of, and I look forward to that, man. Okay.
Drifting off.
Drifting off and getting hungry actually from talking about this. So anything more you want to share about that topic?
I think it's a thing we can revisit in a couple of months from now.
When we actually front-loaded the pain.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things not going terribly wrong or anything, but there are a couple of things that we can take another look at this methodology.
Yeah.
And try to do things a little bit better. So yeah, let's see what we can discuss in a couple of months from now.
The last thing I want to share about that is that at NOCO we are now at a moment where I instinctively feel that we need to generate momentum and ride it, because we did so many great things, Jelle and the team for the past couple of years. But now we have a perfect little window. We're end of year, where we learned so much. We learned so much about our customers, what they need and want about the market, and we have some great ideas. But we also have very cool projects running that, of course, that we prioritize. But now is a nice little window to just sit down and create some momentum and go through some pain maybe for a short period of time. But then there's so many improvements and cool new features and add-ons to our services that we want to implement. And I always prefer doing this with a burst of intensity and not scattered over months and months.
There's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, sprinting, man. Sprint like a lion, and then we eat a lot of beef stew during Christmas, and we're well rested, and we can go into some a period of a little bit more consistency maybe in the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, but I see the same thing. I mean, this month you're doing a record revenue, for whatever it's worth. But you'll see.
Oh, thanks, man.
No, basically your words, but
true. I said that myself.
I'm pretty happy about it.
It's worth nothing.
But you can see that, if this doubles, we're kind of cooked, right? We need to improve it. And I think when we improve it now, it's going to be smooth sailing.
Yeah,
when you double.
It's a perfect window to do it, and it's about going through some pain. But I love that pain. It's like sparring, but in a different way. Okay, moving on, my friend. Well, as you know, we spent quite a bit of time on X. Sometimes too much time. Sometimes not, because there are super interesting, persons on there with some great knowledge and ideas to share. So I came across this guy. His name is John Rush, and I think he's like a serial SaaS, micro SaaS builder for a very long time. I think he's from Norway originally. But the reason that he stood out to me is that he often has these pretty cool threads about startup culture, about business, about, well, everything that we kind of want to identify with. So he's doing all of that from mostly a SaaS perspective. We have service businesses, but because they are productized service, at least for NOCO, and you are a productized type of thinker as well, we kind of see a lot of similarities with the structure of it and how we offer our productized services, how we sell them. So that's why it kind of resonated with me. So as you know, I like to go through some lists and just pick your brain. So there's some interesting ones there. Let me open the thread itself. So we had a thread, why startup founders fail, based on my own failures and 100 plus founders in my network. Well, he definitely knows how to write hooks because instantly interested. So just go through a couple of these items. Number one, a solution looking for a problem. This one accounts for over 50% of failures I've seen and done. Founders build a solution first and then go to the users, pitching it and try to convince them they have such a problem. The problem often isn't serious enough to change their habit. We talked about this before the podcast, actually, about being a critical part for someone's business as a service provider. But what comes up in your mind? Solution looking for a problem. Do you see that often?
Yeah, I see it a lot with bootstrap founders that come in at Eli 5 and want to build a product with us. I don't have like that concrete example, but how do you see it with the example that you just gave about NOCO, maybe it can get me going.
Yeah. So the example I gave was that one of my frustrations when, being the co-founder and running my former agency is that you are not perceived, or not always perceived, as a critical element to their business. This is kind of when you're in marketing and branding, and especially B2B, and then especially industries that are a little bit less marketing driven still, more sales and tech driven, like industrial brands. I often notice that the priority, you're not their number one priority when it comes to third-party services or vendors. And that led to longer project times. It led to having to chase the customer for a follow-up for the project or to keep the project moving, which also impacted your own timeline and planning and team morale and stuff like that. So the question then is, was that a solution looking for a problem? Or to what extent was that a solution looking for a problem? Because there clearly was a need. There clearly was a need for what we did. Especially on the video end, this is how we started. There was very much a need for some of the big players, some of the big industrials.
Yeah, you actually mentioned that it was more like the example of like a supplement or a medicine, right? Maybe that's a better.
Yeah, that is also in the list of John's thread. That's a good one.
But regarding the solution, looking for a problem, I think, isn't it more like, I see it a lot in blockchain projects. I also
totally.
I've seen a bunch of blockchain projects also coming along here. I'm like, dude, you don't need blockchain for that.
You barely need blockchain for anything.
True, but I mean, there are some like very interesting use cases. But simultaneously, why is a centralized database not good enough for this?
Yeah.
Works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I also have it with new founders that come by Elef5 that basically just want to build the entire product from the get-go. It's kind of the same thing. I'm like, you have like zero validation in it. You're going to build this entire thing, and then you're going to find customers. It's not the right way to go. But I think the blockchain example is more spot on with this one.
Totally, because they start with the technology and then they look what they can build with it.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not saying that's always wrong, but it's not very logical, right? But to really answer your question and about NOCO, to summarize, I was talking about my former agency and how I often felt that we were not a critical part to their business. And that kind of frustrated me. At NOCO, I feel like we are closer to that because we are delivering arguably the most important element of that digital presence, which is the website, which is also for B2B SaaS and tech, mostly their main channel for sales, for conversion. So that's great. And that's also what you notice in the customer dynamic. Like there's a much more urgent sort of collaboration. However, after a 0 to 1 website sprint, we also see sometimes that as a customer told me, we now have a great Ferrari, this beautiful Ferrari, which is the website. And now we want to drive it. Meaning, okay, so we have this platform now, and now we're going to go all out on content and maybe shift back focus to product development a little bit more, etc. So we are constantly internally discussing and brainstorming how we can add value for after that website sprint that we do. And we do that for a number of customers because quite a lot of customers, they want to have a subscription where we can keep iterating, and they have a very lively website with a lot of landing pages, event pages, new webinars, etc. Because that is their content strategy. But so how can you become a critical part to your customer's business is a pretty valid question to ask, and this ties into those combined points of a solution looking for a problem and vitamin versus painkiller. So do you offer a vitamin, which just makes you feel a little bit better in the margins? Or do you offer a painkiller that really, really takes a pain away that is holding them back from potentially succeeding?
Yes. Is it like solving a hair on fire problem? Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a good question to answer yourself from time to ask yourself from time to time. Like, am I selling a vitamin or a painkiller? And that's a constant thing, because market trends changing, customer needs, industry needs are changing. Just something to be sharp of. But I really liked that it was in the list. What is a nice one to talk about?
They like it but won't pay.
Right. Do you know something about this?
Well, I mean, it's just the ultimate validation, right? How many times did you see like cases of people having a free version of their product, gaining a lot of traction, and once they start asking money, then all of a sudden it's crickets, you know? Like, I always like to ask the market for like a SaaS product that we're building, like, are you going, like, do you want to pay for this? Like, I mean,
how do you go about that? How do you ask the market?
Well, with the SaaS product that we're building right now, which is basically a regulatory change management tool, it's quite easy because it's B2B. We just go to potential customers, we discuss it, we demo the product, and we send them a proposal. And at first we were like a bit too high, you know, like see how far we can reach. But you get the hang of it, and people are willing to pay. But there's still a lot to figure out besides that, of course. But if they don't want to pay for it, then you can put all this effort in it and you got it validated because people want to use it. But how are you going to monetize it?
That's a tough one when that happens, because what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to still monetize it. I mean, you can throw a bunch of ads in or something. But
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about ads versus organic, because I saw an interesting discussion about this on X. And it's also something that I'm thinking about as well. So organic versus ads. So you have the purists who say, I'm doing stuff 100% organic. I don't believe in ads. It doesn't work for me, etc.
Yeah.
And then you have the people who are very much into ads, and then you have the people who are somewhere in the middle. So to give you an example, at NOCO, we, in the phase that we're in, ads have served us very well.
Yeah.
We have a great marketing manager who teams up with a great SEA partner, constantly optimizing, does a good job in finding our ICP, and is really sharp on that. With actually, in terms of budgets, it's pretty modest, to be honest. I mean, don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's pretty modest, and so that's great. But we now have the position, and we've always had that we do not want to be a slave, so to speak, to paid ads, whether that's Google or any major platform that can sort of at a moment's notice change the algorithm or change stuff so that you have to start over again.
Yeah.
So I saw an interesting discussion there, and there is some great quote from Greg Eisenberg that I saw, which I couldn't agree with more. What he said is that my take is that the best companies don't start with ads, they earn the right to use them. And then he has a list in which he explains it. Organic proves that people want it. So basically saying, when you write about it, when you write about your product or solution, and you gain a following by sharing interesting stuff about that or the problem you solve, and people are already interested, signaling interest or even buying and purchasing, then it's validated. Secondly, he says organic shows that what content works. Well, that's undoubtedly true, because you're going to post content, some of it gains zero traction, others do gain traction. Yeah,
well, I mean, kind of true, but at the same time, it's also distribution, right? How far is your reach already? And I think there's not, I mean, including us, we don't have that big following. It's hard to distribute something from the get-go. I got a neighbor who actually has a SaaS product. From the get-go, he was basically putting in a lot of time to create a lot of SEO optimized pages,
Yeah.
and now he's organically ranking very high in Google, and I mean, it helps him out. But then you need to have time, right, to do that. And I think things both can serve a purpose. I love it when people can build companies based on organic growth. It's amazing, but
but if you have to start from scratch, and you have a very limited runway, then of course you have to do something, right?
Yeah, but I also sometimes validate demand via ads. You know, like, is this something that is in demand? Because sometimes we basically create a prototype of a product, we validate it on real users. I mean, it gathers a lot of feedback about how the product needs to be built and how they are going to use it.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't validate, like, hey, is there like a broader demand in the market for this thing? So it does serve a purpose. But yeah.
So just to complete Greg's list here, because organic.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. But it gives you a more complete picture of So organic proves people want it. Organic shows what content works. Ads prove it scales. It's also a valid point, right? Organic sets baseline CAC, and then ads test upper limits. The last one is interesting, of course. You mentioned this as well.
Yeah, I think what is nice with the ads that are basically running mostly for NOCO currently, you can play around a little bit, like how far can you reach it, you know, because there is a ceiling, you know. You can put 5K a month in and get like 20 proper leads, which is good, but are you going to get 40 proper leads when you put 10K in? You know, that's the question, like, because there is a point of diminished returns on ads. So I like it because it's a bit more data driven, you know. You can really get into it from a technical perspective with ads. But yeah, I mean, obviously I love it when people can build companies based on organic growth.
I mean, I think I speak for the both of us when that is more the more inspiring thing to do, right? So
yeah, but we all fall in that trap, you know. Like, how often I thought, I'm not gonna do ads because Elon Musk doesn't do ads, you know. Like,
right?
It's just
no, absolutely. But now we're trying, of course, in the terms of the group content strategy that we're sort of rolling out. We talk about stuff all the time, so we just decided to start recording it here in this podcast, and then, you know, with all the tools now, it's so easy to transcribe and to break it down into all kinds of bits and pieces of content, and but we are basically starting from scratch, so to speak, and I'm super curious how that will play out. But it's just that I'm more naturally drawn to being sort of your authentic self and just sharing knowledge and learning from other people by just engaging with them, whether it's through a podcast, on social media, etc. Yeah, I'm just more naturally drawn to it. And I also think, and this is a super overlooked and very important one for me, I also think that it fits very well into the culture that we want to establish in all the companies in our group. So we want to have more of an engaging culture, whether the team is remote or not, where there's a constant sharing of knowledge and information and new ideas and trends and all of that. So I think it also fits very well into that culture that we're trying to establish. Because we talk about stuff, we share clips of this, our own team listens to the podcast, but definitely also they feed us with ideas for the podcast and for our content. So I'm naturally more drawn to the organic strategy, and then you can boost it with ads. That's what I'm trying to say. It also gives me a little bit more of a feeling of being in control myself, instead of sort of living by the grace of the big platforms, the big advertising platforms.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't want to lean predominantly on ads, that's for sure. But I mean, there's a lot of things in ads that I think are very nice, especially when you again, like, look at it from a more technical perspective. You can tweak into the nitty gritty of ads, and you can make things work. You know, like, let's say you want to build a sales funnel, and you want to like push traffic right through that sales funnel from the get-go. I mean, you don't want to grow that organically. You want to test it out right now. So I think for that, it's perfect to use ads, like spend a little bit of money and just see, does it stick, and if the ad sticks, but people bounce on the page, then you improve the page. You know, like it is a nice way of building traction for certain things.
Yeah, very quickly. Very quickly. Yeah. Especially when you don't have your following yet, or when you don't have a strong personal brand.
Yeah, but even if you have a following, I mean, that's also like has certain demographics, right? If you want to go beyond that, it's nice to. I think ads play a good role in building things. You know, like they can be.
But aren't you? Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, that's why we use them, and we will keep using them, and we'll try out other platforms, etc. But I would always prefer to see them as supplemental.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah. Experiments, supplemental. You want to make. You want to build like multiple go-to-market motions. I mean, you want to get some people from maybe this podcast, some people from that are referred by other clients, some people that found you via some SEO pages, some people coming from ads. I agree. You need to have multiple sources.
Yeah.
So it's like some kind of a beautiful mix that you need to build, and all the organic stuff just takes time, man. That's the downside.
It does. So but that's what we know, and that's why it's also important for organic content to choose the most frictionless path. And for us, the podcast comes with very little friction. So I'm very confident that we can just keep doing this basically forever and just keep iterating and improving a little bit without too much friction. It's just a matter of sitting down, hooking up the mics, and go.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a thing that we already did, right? So
yeah.
Now we just
except now that we don't have a bottle of whiskey on the table.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that it sharpens my mind a little bit, you know, because it is different than when we are just talking together in a restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, you kind of you get forced in this format to concisely and coherently form a thought, and sometimes we succeed in it, and sometimes we still struggle. But I already noticed that. It's going better little by little, and it's also great practice because it also helps you when you talk to customers or to team members to more concisely and coherently and more directionally convey a thought.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's nice. I mean, I always wrote a whole bunch of content. I didn't really publish it. And just because we do this once a week, it really motivates me. Oh yeah, I need to finish that thing because it piques my interest, and I would like to discuss that, you know. And also the other way around is true. You know, sometimes we bump into things during this podcast and you think, hey, this is nice to pick up later somewhere, writing an article, make like another video, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, nice words to finish with. Let's enjoy our weekend a little bit, which consists of quite some work actually. But that's why we do it. It's a work in progress.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. See you next time.
All right. Ciao.